Welcome back to No Huddle, everyone, and welcome to Week 7 NFL predictions. We're officially over a third of the way through the NFL season, at least the regular season, and so far, it's been an absolute movie. Roger Goodell, take a bow, because this season has been really unlike any other that I've seen in my lifetime, so, let's just get started. But quick disclaimer first, I don't know if anyone noticed, but unfortunately, my Week 6 review/reaction video wasn't able to come out. I wanted it to come out on Tuesday, if not Wednesday, but for some reason, I had everything ready for it, but the video literally just would not upload because of some technical difficulties. Like, it just literally wouldn't load. It couldn't upload, so unfortunately, I had to can it. So no Week 6 review, unfortunately, but, that's the quick disclaimer. Really sorry about that, but hopefully, if you guys are seeing this, that means this one was able to upload, and we're able to get things rolling again. So on to the Week 7 predictions. I went 9-6 last week, which was better than my previous showings, but still not great. Now I have a record of 57-36, so hopefully I'll be able to bump that up a little bit. Starting with Thursday Night Football, we got the Steelers visiting the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers are coming off another AFC North win against the Cleveland Browns. Meanwhile, the Bengals continued their free fall with a loss to the Green Bay Packers. I think this one, I'm gonna make it pretty straightforward. I think the Steelers are easily going to win this game. I think that their defense is going to be extremely dominant against Joe Flacco, who, like we saw, isn't the worst quarterback in the world. He's better than Jake Browning, but I don't think he'll be able to take advantage of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins enough, as well as the really, really bad run game that the Bengals have. I think that the Steelers are going to feast with their edge pass rush, and I think that Aaron Rodgers, he's shown that he's able to do enough to beat like bad offenses. Like we saw, he was able to play pretty well against a good Browns defense, and the Bengals do not have the Browns defense, so I think that this is going to be a lot less close than that game was. But the key players for this, I think it's going to be between the matchup of Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase, because if Jamar Chase is able to just cook Jalen Ramsey and Joe Flacco can just throw to him because he's wide open or something like that and get like 150 yards, then I think the Bengals may have a chance, but I just don't really think that's going to happen. Even if Jamar Chase has his yards and touchdowns, which he's had in the last 2 weeks, I just don't think it's going to be enough, and I think that the Steelers are going to improve to 5-1. Now moving on to the London game, we got the Rams visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're finally going to get a decent international matchup. The Rams are coming off beating the Ravens comfortably. Meanwhile, the Jaguars fell on a one-score game to the Seattle Seahawks. This is a really, really tough matchup with the added element of the international game. Just makes things very unpredictable, but I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams. I just think that they're the more polished team. I think the Jaguars are just very inconsistent. Like, there are some games, we saw them against the Chiefs where they were very well-rounded. They were able to play some good football. But then sometimes, like, the offense just doesn't really click sometimes. Like, Travis Etienne either doesn't have a very good game. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look as elite as he should. The receivers aren't having the start to the year as they really should be. And I just think that the Rams, they're more experienced. I think Puka Nacua, I don't believe he's injured. I think he'll be ready for the game. Even if he's not able to play, Devontae Adams, I think, is going to play well. But the key players for this game, for the Rams, it's Matthew Stafford, because he's had a really bad habit of overthrowing a lot of passes, and also the Rams have had some turnovers. Like, they missed a 26-yard field goal, and Matthew Stafford also got strip sacked, as well as he got sacked on 4th down against the Ravens. A very sloppy showing from them. If the Rams aren't polished, if they're not disciplined, then those Stafford overthrows can turn into the Jaguars turnovers, because the Jaguars, even though they didn't force any against Seattle, they are really, really good at forcing turnovers. They're number 1 in the league. For the Jaguars, it is Brian Thomas, in my opinion, just because we saw against San Francisco when the Rams lost that game that they lost because Mac Jones to Kendrick Bourne was just an automatic connection. They played like Montana and Rice. If Trevor Lawrence can find that connection with Brian Thomas, that connection that we saw last year, then I think that Jaguars offense is going to click a lot more, and it'll be able to outgun Matthew Stafford. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think this could be a low-scoring game just because it is in London, and usually London doesn't provide the best games. But I think Los Angeles is going to come away with the victory. And now to Sunday, we got Philadelphia visiting the Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles are on a skid, losing now to the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Meanwhile, the Vikings were on a bye, but the last time we saw them, they prevailed in London against the Cleveland Browns. This is a really, really complicated matchup because the Eagles do not look very good, but I don't know, like, this is kind of just superstition, I guess, but I just don't really see them dropping 3 games in a row, so I'm going to take Philadelphia. I'm counting on their offense clicking just a little bit. I know that sounds really stupid to say just because the Vikings just have such a good defense with Brian Flores, arguably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. The Vikings they're so good at scheming up pressure. They're so good at making the offenses uncomfortable. But I don't know. I just think that Philly is going to prevail. But I do think that the key players for this game, it's going to be Saquon for the Eagles, because even if the passing game isn't completely in sync, that was the case for a couple of games last year. But they were able to prevail because Saquon was an absolute beast. Now, who knows? Maybe the carries caught up to him from last year, so he can't really handle that load anymore. But they need him to carry that load now. They need to give him 20-plus carries, because then they need to ease up the passing game in some way. I also think one of the key players is Cooper DeJean / the secondary for the Eagles, because if they're not able to cover Justin Jefferson, or at least if they can leave him at only 150 yards, quote unquote, then maybe they'll have a chance. But for the Vikings, I think it's Jordan Addison, just because if Quinyon Mitchell is out, which I think he might be, then that leaves Cooper DeJean on Justin Jefferson, which is going to be food. But that leaves either Ringo or Adoree Jackson on Jordan Addison, which is an absolute mismatch. And if Carson Wentz can get Addison the ball, then that will be golden for them. But I just don't really know how much I trust Carson Wentz or J.J. McCarthy for that matter. I think that Philly is going to prevail. It's going to be one of those weird games like against the Rams or against the Buccaneers, but I just don't see Philly dropping 3 games in a row. And now we got the Mike Vrabel revenge game. We got the Patriots visiting the Tennessee Titans with now a new coach. I forgot the coach's name, but at least Brian Callahan's not fired because he was terrible. The Patriots are coming off a pretty good win against the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, the Titans, they fired Brian Callahan after they lost to the 1-4 Raiders. Very embarrassing. Very straightforward. I think the Patriots are going to win this game in a pretty convincing fashion. I think Mike Vrabel has that chip on his shoulder that he's going to want to prove to the Tennessee Titans that they shouldn't have let him go. And to be honest, I don't really know why they let him go. I kind of forgot that story. Kind of see him really dumb for them now. But I just think that the Patriots are in red-hot form. They started out 1-2 with some very undisciplined football. I think that even if they play undisciplined, as long as they don't turn to the Cardinals, they're not going to lose to Tennessee. I think Drake May is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think Ramondre, he's been doing a better job, I guess, of protecting. Actually, really, no, he hasn't. But he just has to not turn the ball over. Hopefully, they hand it off to Trayvon Henderson a couple more times so they can just maintain that ball security. And for the Titans, I mean, their key players, obviously Cam Ward, because they need him to play like Superman if they want to win that game, but I don't think he will. And for the Patriots, I think it's their defense. If they're able to force Cam Ward into some pressure, not let him develop any good habits, not let him create magic plays out of the pocket like he has every once in a while, then they'll be able to contain this Titans offense completely. I think that's going to happen. I think the Patriots will improve to 5-2 and keep carrying this lead of the AFC East. And now we got the Panthers playing against the New York Jets. This would have been a terrible matchup a couple weeks ago. But the Panthers are coming off their second straight win after upsetting the Dallas Cowboys in a shootout. Meanwhile, the Jets traveled all the way across the globe to put up a dud and lose to the Denver Broncos. Again, another pretty straightforward, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think that the Panthers are going to win their third game in a row. I think that the Panthers are going to improve to now a winning record just because the Jets are the most incompetent franchise in the NFL. I wasn't able to mention it because my video didn't come out, but the Jets passed for -10 passing yards because Justin Fields got sacked so many times because he would hold on to the ball for way too long, and the offensive line is not good. Garrett Wilson is also out, which means no matter who they start, whether it's Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields, he's going to have absolutely no one to throw to. Now, can the Panthers create some pressure? That might be the question, just because the Broncos obviously have a way more ferocious defense than the Panthers. But I still trust Carolina to make the plays. I think Bryce Young, who knows if he's even going to have that government-mandated turnover that he always has, just because the Jets are so bad at forcing takeaways. They only have one the entire season, and that was against a very lackluster Broncos offense. But the key players, I think it's Rico Dowdle once again for the Panthers. He's been so good these past 2 weeks, having 400 rushing yards combined. And for the Jets, it's their defense. They were almost able to snatch that game against the Broncos just because they only allowed 13 points. But the offense was so static that they just couldn't. If they can force Bryce Young to make a bunch of mistakes and just hold the Panthers to 15 points, and then Justin Fields can be semi-competent and score 17, then maybe they can win. But I don't know. The Jets, I think, are easily the worst team in the league right now. It's either them or the Titans, I guess. And for the Panthers, I mean, they're just going to keep this ascension, in my opinion. And now we got a battle of two very bad teams, the Dolphins versus the Cleveland Browns. This game is going to be a lot closer than I think people realize, but the Dolphins are coming off a last-second loss against the Los Angeles Chargers. Meanwhile, the Browns did absolutely nothing on offense in a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams were absolutely in the gutter. I believe both teams are 1-5, with both wins not being like the most convincing thing in the world. But I'm going to take Miami. And at first, this was kind of straightforward, but then I realized like this game is going to be a lot closer, just because like they're both really not that far away from each other in terms of how good they are. Like I thought the Browns, at first I was like, the Browns are a terrible team, but then I realized, oh wait, the Dolphins are also extremely bad. But I think that I trust the Dolphins, I guess, just because Tua, like, he still shows signs of promise when he's not making the most boneheaded plays of all time. It's kind of like Bryce Young. It's kind of like that Bryce Young syndrome. I think the connection with Darren Waller has been really promising. It's been one of the only good signs for the Dolphins. I think Jalen Waddle has still been good. I think Achane's going to be able to run well. And it's more so a matter that I just don't think that the Browns offense can do anything. Dylan Gabriel has shown he's not good. He can't throw down the field. Quidshot Judkins can only do so much unless they give him like 30 carries and he takes it for 200 yards like what Rico Dowdle did. But they have absolutely no receiving threat, and unless the defense carries them, I just don't think that they're going to win. But the key players, like I said, the Browns, it is their defense. They're going to have to pull off a win, just like they did against Green Bay, where they only allow like 10 points and force maybe multiple turnovers out of that Miami offense. And for Miami, it is Darren Waller, because he's been legit been like really, really good the past like 3 games. I believe he has like 4 touchdowns now. What a resurgence for his career. If he's able to play well, then Tua is going to have a much needed like safety blanket player, and hopefully he can cut down on the turnovers. I do think that's going to happen, but I'm not going to lie. If the Browns win this game, I won't be the most surprised. And now we got the Saints playing against the Bears, the Dennis Allen Bowl. The Saints are coming off a loss against the Patriots. Meanwhile, the Bears pulled off a last-second redemption win against the Commanders last Monday night. This is kind of a hard game to predict because the Saints are a very frisky team, and I don't know how much I can trust the Bears, but I'm still going to take Chicago in this one. I think they've been really, really good ever since the bye now. They're now on 3 straight wins under Ben Johnson after those first 2 really rocky losses. But I think Caleb Williams has shown that he's been a much better quarterback. Like, really every quarterback that's been drafted last year has been really, really good, except for, like, J.J. McCarthy. And even Spencer Rattler here, he's shown that he's not the worst quarterback in the league. But I just don't really know how much I trust the Saints offense. I don't think they can produce any points, and I don't think their defense is enough to like contain that. The Bears do have a lot of firepower that the Saints are going to have to contain. I just don't think they'll be able to. And the key players, I think for the Bears, it is Rome Odunze, just because I don't know how much DeAndre Swift is going to replicate what he did last week. I don't know how many times he's going to have over 200 yards from scrimmage. So if we see a better game out of him, we'll see a better game out of Caleb, and we'll see the full potential of the Bears offense. And for the Saints, it is Spencer Rattler, in my opinion, just because if they want to win, they don't really have like many like skilled position players, I guess, outside of like Rashid Shaheed and Kamara, I guess, but they're not like of the utmost quality. And if Spencer Rattler can keep playing to a slightly higher level than what he has been, which has been like just a average quarterback, if he can become an above average quarterback, then I think the Saints can actually turn some of these close losses into some close wins. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Bears have too much firepower, but who knows? Like Spencer Rattler, he could turn into something. Now we got an AFC West showdown, if you could even call it that, between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders are coming off snapping a 4-game losing streak with a win against the Tennessee Titans. Meanwhile, the Chiefs got a must-win statement win against the Detroit Lions on Sunday night. Very straightforward once again. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game. I absolutely see no way that the Raiders are going to win this game. Geno Smith is the opposing quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all you need to know. Geno Smith is not going to outplay Patrick Mahomes. And really, in the Patrick Mahomes era, how many times have you really seen a quarterback or another team beat him while the other quarterback plays terrible? I can think of like 2 years ago when Aiden O'Connell beat him. But Geno Smith just has so many bad tendencies. Even in a average Geno Smith game against the Tennessee Titans, he still had an interception. So I think that the Chiefs with Spags, they're going to force Geno into his bad habits. He's going to have some bad interceptions. And I think now with Rashee Rice back, the Chiefs are going to unlock that new level of offense. I think they're right back to where they were in like 2022 with that really, really good explosive offense. I think Mahomes is finally looking more like himself. And I just think that the Chiefs are going to walk away with a very easy win. The key players for the Raiders, it is Ashton Ginty. I think Spags is going to do everything in his power to take away Ginty and force Geno to try and beat them. But if he's able to show off that special like Heisman level talent that we know that he has, then maybe he can take the ball away from Mahomes, dominate the time of possession. That's really the only way that I see it, and like limit the drives that the Chiefs have. And for the Chiefs, I think it is Rashee Rice, just because he's coming back. And while I do think that the Chiefs are going to try and involve him, if they try to involve him too much and it like really doesn't work out, like he's extremely rusty, then I think that could lead to some mistakes for Kansas City. So I think he has to be on top of his game, at least as much as he can be, because if not, it can sabotage the team, but I don't think it will. Rashee Rice can sabotage them all they want, and I think the Chiefs are still going to win by multiple scores. Now we got the Colts playing against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Colts are coming off a really close win against the Jacoby Brissett-led Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Chargers got a last-second win against the Miami Dolphins. This is a very interesting game. I think these are the top two seeds in the AFC. Like, it's 2006 all over again. But I'm going to take the Indianapolis Colts. And I just think they're the more well-rounded team. The Chargers are just too injured right now. I think some guys are going to come back. I think Joe Alt might play, and that's going to help a lot because Herbert is like getting hit because his O-line is made out of scotch tape at this point. But I just think that the Colts they just have the better form right now. I think they have the best offense in the NFL, at least the more like the best well-rounded offense in the NFL, the most consistent offense. And like I just think they'll be able to outgun the Chargers because the Chargers, they have absolutely no one. Like can Vidal recreate that performance that he had against Miami where he ran for like 130 yards? Can the receiving core step up for Herbert? Can the O-line protect him just a little bit? I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the Colts are going to ride to a 6-1 record. And for the key players for the Colts, it's once again Jonathan Taylor. Like that's not like surprising. If the Chargers are able to contain him, then the Colts are going to have a really, really hard time because we really haven't seen a game where Daniel Jones like has had to lead them to like a comeback win. Like he hasn't had to throw like 40 times a game. But if he is made to, I think he can maybe pull it out, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how he'll do that with Jonathan Taylor being contained. And for the Chargers, it is up to Justin Herbert to make the plays because he is still going to be under duress, even if Joe Alt comes back with really no consistent running support. And the receivers, we'll see how they are on a week-to-week basis. But if Justin Herbert is able to play like his talent says he can play, like a top 5 quarterback, then the Chargers are able to pull out this win. I just don't think that's going to happen due to the circumstances, and I think that Indy is going to pull away with a victory. Now we got the New York Giants battling against the Denver Broncos. The Giants are coming off a Thursday night upset against the Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, the Broncos, they traveled to London and were able to prevail against the New Jersey Jets. I think that the Broncos are going to get a much-needed dominant win in a way, I guess. The Giants have been a very frisky / good team ever since week 3 or week 4 when they upset the Chargers. They kind of had a dud against the Saints, but then they were able to dominate the Eagles. They really kind of destroyed the Eagles, to be fair. They outplayed them on every front. But I just think that Denver has a way better defense than Philadelphia. Obviously, they didn't have Quinyon Mitchell or Jalen Carter. The Broncos have the best pressure and the best secondary in the NFL. Their linebacker core leaves a lot to be desired. But those two, their defensive line and their secondary, they're arguably the best in the league. I just don't think that the Giants are going to be able to produce much offense because I don't think they have the skill players to be able to dominate against the Broncos' individual quality on the defensive side. Now, can the Broncos offense do enough to dominate the Giants' defensive line? I don't really know, but I think Bo Nix has to play well this season at some point, and I think that's going to happen. I think he's going to have a much-needed good performance because Sean Payton has done a terrible job at managing him in his second year, so I think he'll do better. The key players, I think it's going to be a matchup between Wan'Dale Robinson and Riley Moss. I don't know if Wan'Dale Robinson is actually going to be covered by Surtain, but Riley Moss, I think, has been targeted a lot this season just because teams like to target him. And the Giants, we saw last week, they targeted at Ringo and at Adoree Jackson a lot last week. So if Riley Moss can hold his own and he's able to lock down Wan'Dale or the other Giants receivers, then there's going to be no outlet for Jackson Dart to pass. And I think that defensive line is going to do good enough on Cam Scottaboo to limit the running game. And I think that it's going to be another low-scoring game, but I think Denver is going to pull away at Mile High. And now we got Green Bay going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Packers are coming off a pretty dominant win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Meanwhile, the Cardinals weren't able to complete a last-second victory against the Colts. This is a battle of a very, very good team versus a very, very mediocre team. I think the Packers are going to win this one easily. I just think they have the better team all around. They have the better coach and everything. The Cardinals are at home, but we saw that they lost to the Titans at home, so that doesn't really say much. Green Bay's just a better team. I think that the key players for Green Bay is Josh Jacobs, who had his breakout game last week against the Bengals. If he can recreate that production, then he'll be able to gash the Cardinals defense all day. And Jordan Love, I think he's been very good outside of some throws where he just has some bad turnovers. If he's able to be safe with the ball and not put it in the hands of Budda Baker or the other players on the Cardinals secondary, then I think that they're just going to walk away with an easy win. And for the Cardinals, it is Jacoby Brissett or Kyler Murray, whoever's going to start, because they need their quarterback to outplay Jordan Love. You need him to outgun Jordan Love, similar to how Dak Prescott almost did it and what resulted in a tie. Or if the Cardinals defense can hold Green Bay to 10 points, similar to what the Browns did, I guess. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Green Bay is going to cruise to an easy win. And for the Cardinals, it's not looking like a very good season for them. And moving on to the NFC East showdown between the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys. The Commanders lost in heartbreaking fashion on the last-second field goal to the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, the Cowboys also did that at the hands of the Carolina Panthers. This is a very hard game to predict. I think it's going to be a shootout, and because of that, I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. This kind of an upset pick, I guess, just because the Cowboys aren't really considered a very good team. But I can't believe I'm saying this, but I trust Dak Prescott to make the plays down the stretch. He's played one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's just that his defense has been just terrible. I think that it's going to be terrible once again. I expect this shootout to be 35-35 or something like that. Similar to how the Giants-Cowboys game was back in week 2. And we remember how good that game was and how good Dak Prescott played. I think that Dak Prescott and George Pickens are going to link up a lot. And can Jaden Daniels match them? He definitely can. We've seen him do that before. But I just think that the Washington, they're not as polished as they were last year. And I think that if they make some mistakes similar to what they did against the Bears didn't forgive them, and Dallas for sure is not going to forgive them. The key players, it's going to be a quarterback matchup. I usually don't do 2 quarterbacks because that's too cliche and too obvious, but it is a matter of fact that whoever plays better between these 2 quarterbacks is going to win, Jaden Daniels or Dak Prescott, and I think that Dakota Rain is going to be the better NFC East quarterback in this showdown. And now we got Sunday Night Football. We got an injury bowl between the Falcons and the San Francisco Hospital, a.k.a. the 49ers. The Falcons are coming off a very convincing win by beating the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. Meanwhile, San Francisco, they got Fred Warner killed in a loss to Tampa Bay. If the 49ers were completely healthy, keyword is healthy, then I think I would pick them to win this game. But even in the Bay Area, I'm going to take Atlanta. The Niners defense is just way, way, way too injured right now. They lost Bosa. They lost Fred Warner. And then on the offensive end, they still don't have Kittle. They still don't have Ayuk. It's still the Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne show, which we see can produce points. They still scored 19 on Tampa Bay, and they scored 26 2 weeks ago against the Rams. So it's not like their offense, I think, is that terrible, but their defense is just way too gashed with no forcing presence in the defensive line and no Fred Warner. Bijan is just going to be able to run all over them, and I think Michael Penix is not going to be forced to make any clutch throws because they'll be ahead of the curve the entire time. The key players for the Falcons, it is Bijan. It's a battle of running backs. I usually don't do 2 players from the same position, but I think whoever plays better, if Christian McCaffrey can finally have his breakout game of the season, then maybe the 49ers can dominate time possession and have control of the game. But I think Bijan is going to do that instead, as we saw him do that against Buffalo. And if the 49ers defense keeps playing like this, then Bijan might have another career day just like he did against the Bills. Falcons win, and they improve to 4-2. Meanwhile, San Francisco, I think they're going to drop to 4-3, I believe. And now we got another Monday night doubleheader. I swear to God, how many Monday night doubleheaders do we need to have? But we have Tampa Bay versus Detroit. An absolute great NFC showdown. I think this is going to be a great game. But Tampa Bay is coming off a really good win against the San Francisco 49ers. Meanwhile, the Lions fell to the Chiefs on Sunday night. I really struggled to pick in this one just because both teams are so good, and it's hard to pick the Lions to lose 2 in a row. They would be dropping to, I believe, 4-3 if that happened, which is very unseen, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Tampa Bay. The Lions secondary is being to hell. Brian Branch is suspended. Terrion Arnold's out. DJ Reed, I believe, is also out. They're down to, I think they have to use Rocky Sin in some of these games now. that's food for Baker Mayfield, who so far has been the MVP of the league. It doesn't matter who plays. Mike Evans can be out. Chris Godwin can be out. Amika can be out. Bucky Irving can be out. Baker Mayfield's doing it with 4th-string receivers, with 5th-string receivers, with his backup running back. It doesn't matter who. Baker Mayfield has been so explosive. And without those defensive playmakers in the secondary, I think Baker Mayfield's not going to really have any troubles of like forcing turnovers too much. I think he'll be able to be safe with the ball. He'll be able to score a lot of touchdowns with whoever's on the offensive side. And I just don't think that the Lions offense is going to match with Baker Mayfield, just because the Tampa Bay defense has been pretty good this season. But the key players, it is Baker Mayfield for Tampa Bay, because if he does force those bad habits and he starts turning the ball over because he's not able to make it work with those like backup receivers, then the Tampa Bay can rear its ugly head, because their running game is not the best, especially without Bucky Irving. And speaking of running game, Jahmyr Gibbs is the key for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't really had the greatest start to the season yet. He's not like as explosive as I thought he would be. He was kind of underwhelming down the stretch of the Chiefs game. And Tampa Bay has an amazing run defense. We already know that. They've been like that for like the last 5 years with Todd Bowles. Jahmyr Gibbs has to gash that Tampa Bay defense, because then that'll put some pressure on the secondary, and then Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams can make their moves in the middle of the field and down the field, and make Jared Goff's life easier. If he's not able to do that and Tampa Bay contains him, then Jared Goff won't be able to make the throws similar to against Kansas City, and Tampa Bay will walk away with a win, which I believe is going to happen, and I think Tampa Bay is going to keep this dominance of the NFC. And ending the week, we got the Texans playing against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. The Texans are coming off from a bye week, but they beat the Ravens 44-10 the last time we saw them. Meanwhile, Seattle, they were able to prevail in Duval against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A little bit tough to predict, just because both of these teams, at least the Texans, like they're a little bit frisky. Like they've looked a lot better, obviously, the last 2 weeks and coming off a bye. But I'm still going to take Seattle to win this game. I just don't really know how much to take seriously of the Texans. Like they beat the Titans and they beat the Ravens. 2 teams that are just, they're in the mud. They're in the gutter right now. Meanwhile, Seattle, they're a lot more proven. They're coming off of beating a good Jacksonville team on the road. I just think they're more proven. Sam Darnold has proven that he's just a really good quarterback. I don't know how much CJ Stroud has really proved, because playing against those 2 defenses is kind of like beating up my JV high school team. I just think Seattle's just a better team, and they have the better defense. They have the defense to make CJ Stroud uncomfortable, who is my key player for the Texans. If he can show that improvement against the Titans off the bye week and against the Ravens is legit, and he can play like a top 10 quarterback like we saw in his rookie year, then maybe the Texans have a chance, especially with that ferocious defense. And speaking of defense, that's the key unit for Seattle, because if they're able to force pressure against that terrible Houston O-line, then CJ Stroud's not going to look good, as he really hasn't, like the first 3 games of the season. I think that's going to happen. I think that the offensive line is going to rear its ugly head again, just like the first 3 games, and Seattle is going to end off Week 7 with a W. And that is it for Week 7. 15 games to cover. Just a lot of action-packed madness in the NFL going on right now. We really don't know who's the best team in the NFL. Maybe we'll have a clearer answer after this week. But if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and please like the video, as any support is truly appreciated. And I'll see you guys next week at the end of Week 7.